How about communicating today? How about communicating with a communications coach, which is even better, right? Well, I got both for you today. Laurie Schloff is an internationally recognized speech and communications coach. She helps women use communication as a tool to create a better life. Now, she's known for working with professionals who need outstanding speaking skills in order to succeed. Her passion is to see her clients become confident, comfortable, and influential communicators. Welcome, Laurie Schloff.
It is wonderful to be here. I love your energy and your mission.
I do too, and thank you for helping with that mission. And how are you living in the energy of your legacy now?
Gosh, I really feel like I am more balanced and have maybe a little more time than I ever had in my life. So, what I've done, as you said, I'm a communication coach, and my career peaked, I would say, in my mid 40s. Everything happened at once. So I had a baby late in life. I was 41 and a half. At the same time, my first book, Smart Speaking, was published. And in those days, you did very well. They sent you on media tours, and I had the wonderful opportunity to be on the Today Show and Oprah. So my life was a little crazy to the point where I was actually turning down, of business opportunities. I was quite overwhelmed. Then I kind of had a breakdown and right around menopause. And I think the lesson there was you do need balance. You do need to pamper yourself. You do need boundaries. And you need a few bad habits too, which I still have.
Yeah, yeah, it's not listening to our bodies. I did that for a couple of years and I wound up with 3 hammer-toed surgeries and bunionectomies and all sorts of fun things. I really hear you on that one. And that's so important for all of us to benefit from, you know?
Yeah,
What is, go on, please.
I know I was going to ask if you're athletic because it sounds like maybe athletic injuries.
Well, I'll tell you, yes, and I'm not an athlete. I do yoga and I walk at this point in my life, but I've done many other things where I didn't listen to my body, just like what you're saying. And I had a breakdown. I went sprain my ankle, if you can believe that, in a aerobics class, they used to call it in those days. I don't know what they call it now. And I sprained my ankle in the middle of class. And the teacher went by and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I don't know." And she walked by me. And it turned out I couldn't walk for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. No, I've been there with the sprained ankle. It's you learn the importance of your ankle. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And,
So,
it was a long road. I don't know about for you, because what I'm hearing from you is that you had this book, you had all these great things happen.
a
And
lot
then,
happened. It was wonderful at the time. Yeah.
yeah, but then all of a sudden your body went into overload. And that's happened to me too. And isn't it funny how our bodies just are really in charge?
Yes, and I guess I didn't know how to put the brakes on. And no, I always had support and help and friends, but I didn't know how to put the brakes on the amount of things I was doing. You almost get addicted to a certain pace. And now I feel that I can appreciate free time. So I'm able to, for example, between clients, I always leave time, Jody, to think, to reflect, to whatever, take out the garbage. And I didn't do that for many years in my life. And I'm one of these people who doesn't have a ton of different interests. So I'm one of these people which I get a lot of really that I've been doing what I'm doing, coaching people to be better communicators for my entire career. So I never switched what I was doing. So I was always thriving in it. Every single year I learned more and more and made more and more contacts. So my career has been, maybe 50% of who I am. And I feel very blessed that way. On the other hand, it did become a little bit addictive.
Did you find, and of course, we're talking about what, 20 years ago, if I'm doing the math right, that you felt some need to be super mom, just having a baby, plus you have a career. Is that anything come into play with that?
Really, I was fortunate because I haven't had my daughter, and I got divorced in order to have a child because I have lots of chapters in my life, believe me. Because my first husband did not want to have children. He was very clear about that, and I was hopeful, but it didn't happen. And then struggled a bit with fertility and conceived my daughter through in vitro. She's 30 years old now, and she's actually a coach as well.
Wow.
Mother-daughter interviews would be fun too.
You
Yeah.
know, that might be really interesting because what is it like growing up with a communications coach as a mom?
Right, right. It's interesting because I think she absorbed a lot of things simply by overhearing me. And yes, did I put some emphasis on, well, I put a lot of emphasis actually on kindness and wording and things like that. But yes, I think you do, not everyone, but most people do emulate their parents. She had two parents who were entrepreneurial, and she definitely has that kind of drive. So you don't always have a kid who's like you. I kind of like having a kid who's like me.
Yeah. And that's really kind of cool in many,
Yeah.
many ways. What brought you into communications? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. So I'd say growing up, I was always interested in, let's say, being in front of people. I wish I had a great voice because I would have definitely wanted to have been a singer. I liked audiences. I mean, I can remember my dad and I would have like those old-fashioned tape recorders and we'd record songs together. So I had a lot of happy memories. I ended up going for my master's at Columbia University in New York for speech pathology, and then worked in that field and loved it very much. Then decided I enjoyed working with successful adults and went into more of the working with one-on-one with individuals. I love working with my women clients for whatever it is, a big talk at work or a job interview. I love doing that. And most of my clients are like companies, so they invest in their employees. I mean, you're familiar with that, right? They
Oh,
invest in
yeah.
their employee
Yeah.
training, so they
Yep.
hire me
Yes.
um, to help their employees.
What did you find is the biggest thing that stops women from being willing to communicate what they want, or perhaps even willing to communicate more clearly?
I guess the fundamental obstacle would be fear, and fear of different things. So it could be fear of judgment, fear of not knowing enough, and of course, the fear of speaking. There are people, it doesn't matter if they're the expert, they still get the heebie-jeebies when it comes to all eyes on them. And actually, the virtual world has been better for some of the more introverted or nervous clients because they don't feel as scrutinized.
Wow, that's so interesting. So, what do you think would be something that you would tell somebody who's just scared to bits about talking in front of even four people? I mean, what do you say to them? Get up and do it?
Well, it's a very robust field. So the formal name is communication apprehension, and we take quite a few different approaches. I'll tell you what I'm known for. So there's the cognitive approach, helping the person to think differently about the situation. There's the physical approach, and of course that will involve breathing and a lot of the stuff you probably do in yoga. And then there's the behavioral approach, the skills approach, and that's what I'm best known for. In other words, I help people to be good speakers and to make a commitment along with commitment to their coach to speak up once in the first 10 minutes of the next meeting. So that's what I get hired for is results, honestly. So yeah, a therapist and talk about the inside. I get hired for the outside.
Do you
Yeah.
think that self-care comes into this communication at all with some of the people you deal with?
Well, communication, I think, really varies. We all know that, depending on our mood, right? And how healthy we are. So absolutely. I mean, and there is some, you can have communication hygiene would be the normal things. Sleeping enough, eating well. I mean, you've seen me drink a lot, right? I'm always drinking because we want to kind of humidify our bodies. And
Oh, yeah.
then also self-care in terms of um, what we might call mindset, how you approach a situation. So if I say to myself, they don't want to hear from me, so I'm not going to speak up. that won't be helpful to my feelings of success. But if I say, I'm not an expert in this area, but I have something to contribute. So it's mindset is a part of health, how you approach something mentally.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I mean, you mentioned you're divorced. I'm divorced too. And I would say that that's even one of the reasons why I got into podcast or into interviews, because I didn't think I was being seen. And that's by choice. I didn't think I deserved to be seen for many, many years. And that was quite a shift for me to realize. I was kind of pushed into it. I had actually had a coach said, you're going to start doing these videos. And I said, oh, well, God, no. And all of a sudden I said, this is kind of fun because I'm in my own space. And what I say is what just comes from my heart and what comes out of my mind. It's not anything rehearsed, but yet I would say that there was such a block between, can I really be, me being seen after all those years of not thinking that I needed to be seen. And I think that was something that was, maybe therapeutic or something, but I think that being seen, kind of that push, but also, talking to people like you, because that's a real block, I think, for other women I know.
Right. And you're making me think, because of course I have a lot of coach colleagues, and I guess we've recognized consciously or unconsciously our need to be seen, and boy, we are.
Yeah.
And then we help others to be seen. I like that.
Yeah. Isn't it cool? Because that's really why I'm doing this, because it started with me.
Right. Now, do you get nervous?
Oh, yeah. I always get nervous before a podcast. I always do, or an interview. I just want to be sure everything's in order. And then but I also like to try to take a couple of deep breaths or do some sort of yoga or something of centering so that the person would feel comfortable and, have a fun experience is what my goal is.
Right. Well, it's similar because let's say I'm uptight about a new client or something. I know my job is to help them to feel comfortable, so that does help a lot when you focus on the other person.
Oh, absolutely. And, one of the things that focuses me is of course, I ask my higher power to help me be a channel of their power, their love in order to others, whatever works. But that's something that works for me because then it reminds me that it really is about the other person. It really is about getting that message out that we can live in the energy of our legacy, and we can do it by learning how to get these communication tools and not be maybe scared of it. Because I frankly, I was scared of the idea of even talking in front of people. Now I'm not I don't talk in front of a lot of people, but now I don't have that kind of agony.
Right. Well, that's big. And also you're a planner. I mean, let's be practical. The people who prepare the most usually end up doing the best job.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and it's one way to really relieve nervousness. And, for your listeners, even a simple thing like, going to a barbecue with people you don't know. I mean, there's nothing wrong with thinking in advance of a few things you can say about yourself.
That's a great idea.
The person.
Sorry, that's a beautiful idea. Something that we just stretch our things, because I live alone, and sometimes it is a push. Even for me, I'm very outgoing, but I'm shy in many ways as well. But I'm pushing because I know that, especially after COVID and being alone, which I love living alone, but that's a lot of alone. Just pushing myself to get out there is sometimes very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't
nice
know.
Weather helps, right?
Oh, yeah. We both live in some great climates. There's no question about that. Well, so what shift would you like to see for women that are over 50, over 60, kind of getting in a different space in their lives? What would you like to see for them?
Oh gosh, I guess in terms of communication, is be in touch with your values and how are those values showing up in your own behavior and in the world. So say one of my values is, and I got this totally from my mom, is kindness. So I obviously I have to push my clients a little bit, but I chide myself I'm anxious or whatever, and I don't act as kind to someone in a friend or whatever in the world. And then being aware that you can be a mentor and influence. The older you are, the more people really do treasure what you know about the world. So find a way to put that out there. So for example, obviously we have a presidential campaign coming up. I will be on the words alert. Are the words that are being used by politicians kind, compassionate, helpful? Are they good role models for others? That's my mission in life. Other people might have other ways that they want to give to the world. And related to that, if you're in a position to do volunteer work, I do as much work as I can with the Anti-Defamation League, to help them to spread their words about social justice and anti-Semitism.
Absolutely. You said something that you touched on, something that really touched me, in words and the power of words, and how I wonder what we tell ourselves with those words and how they can block us and how they can open us up. And I wonder if you come in contact with the people that are telling themselves the words that they use for themselves over and over and over again, that prevents them from moving forward with their own communication, however they want to shine.
Yeah, well, I think you're referencing, what some people call self-talk. And I've written a fair amount about that. The most important talking you do is probably the talking you do to yourself.
Yep.
And so there's even been research on this. For example, if I say I'm nervous, that's different than my saying to myself is I'm excited. So our words can really shape our feelings. It's complicated, it's complicated. We have words, we have feelings, we have genetics. Sometimes there's not an easy solution to wanting to get ahead. But I love like this kind of thing, someone bringing out, who you are, what you stand for. I think that's great. So having peers, they don't even have to be interviewing you, but even the sharing means a lot. I was in a women's group last night that I want to tell you about after we get off the air, where people over, I guess definitely over the age of 50 were sharing their
really?
goals for 2024.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I'll put you in touch with those folks. We had to share an old rule we had for our lives and a new rule.
That is so on target, because I would love to see a word out of our vocabulary called should. That word has blocked me in the past, and I watch that word a lot, because I think sometimes in the communication, when I hear that, I'm hearing a parent saying, brush your teeth, Jody, you should do this, you should do, and I'm
absolutely,
that's not effective anymore.
Great goal.
Yeah. And I wonder how many other people, have these words that maybe they just slip out and they don't even realize it.
Yeah, and you could be a communication coach, because sometimes we want to catch someone saying something to themselves. And, and a common thing you'll say is, oh, let's try to reframe that. Or how could you say that a different way?
Yeah. Like even the commercial, I think that the guy hits himself on the head thinking I could have had, I think it was a V8 or something. He hits him, I could have had a V8. And I'm like, yourself on the head, don't do that.
Very good. Yeah, that's a good visual analogy.
Yeah. But I'd love to find out. I think that there is so much for us. And I think that our lives, for me, somebody had said to me, Jody, I'm 69. They said, okay, well, you're really 15. And I looked at and I thought, that's a great way to look at my life, because why is it that we have this stop just because we're X number of years old?
Right.
Look at you. You are working full time, very successful.
Yeah, I mean, we do get wiser based on experience, but also, we are still the kid. Because whenever you have a strong emotion, it usually is grounded in something from a long time ago.
Yes, absolutely. Do you have some quotes that resonate with you?
Sure. One from the women's movement is you can do it all, but you can't do it all at once.
Ooh, I like that. You can do it all, but you can't do it all at once.
Yeah, I think I've learned that. Uh,
I love that.
and then I love John Lennon's quote, life is what happens when you've made other plans. So I have to say, I made all these like lunch dates and things, like one by one, someone's sick, someone's car broke down. I really find my personality is pretty impulsive and spontaneous anyway. I find it works. Being spontaneous works as well as planning. I don't know if you find that, but
Oh, yeah.
sometimes the
Yeah.
things you plan.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Personally, I just love doing things on the fly. I mean, absolutely. But I'd love to ask you what resonated. Why are those two favorite quotes that jump out at you?
Well, I guess because I can relate to them, as I just told you, life happens when you've made other plans. I really feel that that really is true. And then I also think there's a certain universality in both of them. Certainly, many women feel guilty not being with their kid because they're working, or they're working. They want to, what have they not contributed to the world, or not made in terms of income? So I think it's a very reassuring quote, actually. You can do it all, just you can't do it all at once. And sometimes your older years are a time you can do some of those things. Sometimes, not for everyone.
That's beautiful. Well, would you please share with us what you can help our listeners with even more detail?
Sure. Well, I love working one-on-one. And if you have a communication goal, public speaking, if you're with an organization, I work with a lot of people who get promoted to something or asked to be
God.
on a board, and they say, what the heck, I have to talk.
Yeah.
If you run meetings, if you're going on interviews, if you have kids or grandkids, I have team members who are working with young folks on college interviews. And it's
Wow.
really so confidence building for the kids. So, and people can get in touch with me. I don't know if you probably on the webinar are going to have my name
Absolutely.
and how to reach me. And
Absolutely.
the name of my company is Partners in Communication Inc.
Yes.
And I really feel I love the name because I love partnering with my clients. I love partnering with colleagues, and I love partnering with professionals, like you, Jody, who are
Yes.
sort of bringing important wisdom out to the world.
Well, thank you. And I was going to ask you, it's funny because that was my next question, because I was wondering about partners in communications. And I love that, because to me, it meant we're in this together. I'm not up here and you're down here. And the more and more I go on, in life, I just see that there's somebody that might have a lot more experience in an area, but yet we really are partners in supporting one another in whatever we can help with to build each other up and whatever our offers are.
Right, right. And that's an aspect of self-care my friends do admire. Laurie, you never do the things you don't want to do. So part of self-care has been for me
Love it.
is I get other people to do the stuff that I don't want to do when I can.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Would you like to share anything else with our listeners before we end?
Well, I like to say that, you can't wake up in the morning and have your dream house or have the ideal relationship, but you can wake up in the morning with the power of how you communicate and using communication as a tool to help you to feel better and feel great in the world and your relationships.
And that is so, so vital. And thank you. Thank you. I would love for you to come back again, because I really want to get into these books and a lot of your experiences, because it's a very impressive list that you have. And thank you so much for being part of LifeMaven podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jody.
Thank you.